Hi there, Leanne here from Jaded Blossom, and it's time for the Gnome Friends Cow Dies assembly video. Hey, so I'm using Jaded Blossom's Cow Faces stamp set that's new, and they're Gnome Friends Cow Dies. And here we go. So first I'm going to stamp some little faces on these three little cows. Really, I'm just using the eyes for these ones. There. And they're pretty easy to use. I'm using my Misty and Versafine Clair Nocturne ink. And paper Trey Ink, fine linen cardstock, and white cardstock. So there we are. All my die cutting today was done with my Anna Griffin Empress machine. And you'll see I stamped these eyes numerous times, just making sure I get a clear image. And there we go. So I'm using my Sakura white jelly roll pen in a number 10 just to fix the highlights on this beige one. Because, you know, things like that drive me bonkers. I'm using an E15 to color in the color part. Remember, Copic markers are not, they don't play nicely with Versafine Clair ink, but I'm just sort of tapping it on, being careful. And then I'm using Sakura white jelly roll pen in a number 10 and 8 just to fill in the white of the eye because Leanne is crazy like that. And it needs to be white. I can't have beige eyes. That would drive me nuts. And I am just, you know, fixing that up. And then we can start assembling. Sorry, I got interrupted by a call from my daughter, and you know you got to answer those. So anyway, there is my little cow faces. So I'm going to make a few different types of cows here. So first of all, I'm going to make a white cow. Remember, you can choose your own colors. You can make this cow purple if you wanted to, right? There's no rules about that. So first of all, I'm going to start out, I'm just adding these little hooves to my little front legs, cut from Paper Trey Ink white cardstock and American Crafts black cardstock. So the little hooves go straight on your back piece. There we are. So you're going to want to cut that background piece out of whatever color your cow's going to be, because this is going to show partially, like the little legs and around his belly. Next, I am just putting together these little, like if your cow's gonna hold a sign or hold something, you're gonna use these little hands on them, or I don't know, not hands, arms, you know, front little hooves, like a cow can hold something. That's the idea. So you can make these whatever color you want. Mine's a white cow, so it's gonna be white with little black hooves. And using my Barely Art glue, working on a Stampin' Up pad, reverse tweezers, you know, all my die cutting was done with my Anna Griffin Empress. So I do weight things down in between because I find that things dry flat that way. Sometimes you can have some curling, you know. So anyways, I'm adding on my next layer. There we are. So you can see the defined belly, you know, in comparison to the legs. Now I'm giving it a pink belly because this is a white cow, and that is Sweet Blush from Paper Trey Ink. So now I'm adding on my little Holstein, or my little cow head. Now remember, there are two different positions of ears, like going, you know, kind of floppy or going straight out. So I'm going to give this one little straight out ears. You could add ears on separately, but I find with the layer, you really don't have to for the, you know, if you're going for that color of cow. So now I am using that same Sweet Blush cardstock and then American Crafts cardstock for the, I don't know, what's it called, the snout? The nose of the cow. So I'm just layering those up, and you'll see that, you know, I'm just going to add on. Now you can add on this little bottom lip piece, make it out of the color of your cow. And there we are. And I'll weight that down. And now I've got my little face. So I am going to glue this down next. So this is a stamped face. Like you could use enamel dots. I'm going to use that on one of my cows. There's also little die cut eyes that you could use, you know, so whatever you want. So this one's going to have a black stripe on his face. That was cut from American Crafts black cardstock. And his little fluff of hair on top of his head will be also cut out of American Crafts black cardstock. Just making sure that's centered. You can follow the stitch lines on the base. I'm going to add what is it called, a snout? I don't know what it's called on a cow, to be honest. The cow knows. Add the cow nose on. Now you could pop that up if you wanted to, but I'm going to keep it flat. Next, we are going to add on the inside of the ears. That's that same sweet blush cardstock from Paper Trey Ink. Just kind of a nice light pink. And now I'm going to add the horns on. That is Paper Trey Ink white cardstock. Now, if you wanted to, you could kind of leave them, like assemble them and have them behind the head if you wanted, right? That would save you having to, layer it, on top of other cardstock. I think it would look fine both ways. And then this is the tuft of hair. And isn't this the cutest little cow? I think the eyes make it, like, totally. It's just the sweetest little thing. I'm going to add some blush to the cheeks using EK Success chalk because, of course your cow would have pink cheeks, right? Obviously. And so there, if he's going to be holding something, and then this would be if he's just kind of sort of sitting there. And isn't that sweet? And then this is on an A2 size card. I just think it's adorable. So there's one cow. Now I'm going to go with this. I think this is called a Highland cow. And we're going to put that together. I used American Crafts brown cardstock and then Paper Trey Ink fine linen cardstock for the beige. And then the same thing for the little nose that was cut from that sweet blush from Paper Trey Ink and American Crafts black, Now I'm layering this guy up. Isn't he cute? Oh, I love these hairy cows. They are just adorable. Just so sweet. So I decided to go with kind of like a beige and brown look. And I'm just going to put this guy together. Again, the eyes make it, I think. This one's going to have a tongue sticking out, just because why not, right? So you can add a tongue sticking out. It's kind of cute. And we're going to add some pink cheeks on. And it's just the sweetest thing, right? I'm just going to make sure that tongue is lined up where I want it. And isn't that cute? So now we're going to put together the rest of this little cow. So the same thing with the hooves. American Crafts black cardstock. You can add those on. There we are. And using my embellishment wand as per usual. Just getting it in place. And this one I'm going to give a brown belly to. That's that American Crafts brown cardstock again. Just no reason. I figured why not, right? Now we're going to stick down this head layer. And we will layer that up. Now you could put the horns on now and then layer the face on top with the stamping. Or you can do it adding the horns on last like I've been doing. I think both would look fine. Okay, so next, I'm going to trim off this little tuft of hair because I find it sticks up past that little mop that he's got going on his hair. So next we're going to add the little ears. These ones are furry ears, so you're going to add these on next. Cut out of that same American Crafts brown cardstock. So you're just going to want to cover up the ears there. These ones just look like kind of like little puppies, eh? Aren't they just the cutest thing? Honestly, like I'm a carnivore. I eat meat. I like my vegetables, don't get me wrong, but I'm a meat eater. And every time I see these cows, I think to myself, how can I eat these cows? Because I don't know, there's something about cows that I love. They are so sweet looking. So as a result, I'm not a hunter. I'm a person that buys their meat in the grocery store and tries not to think about where it came from. Is the type of person. So here we are. And oh, this little guy is just the cutest little guy. So we're going to add on. So this one has the horns behind the hair, the fluffy hair. I just thought it looked cute. Isn't this the sweetest little guy? Oh my goodness. Now, same thing. I will put together these little front legs. I'm going to add on the little hooves first. And the same as with the ears, there's like a little fur layer you can add. So I'm going to add those on. So the smooth end goes on the outside, kind of, right? There we go, on the outside angle. Kind of lines up, right? And there we go. And it's just the sweetest little cow ever. I'm just going to add some highlights here. I'm going to add some freckles on this one because, of course, it has freckles, right? Sakura White Jelly Roll pen in a number 10 is my favorite. And isn't that sweet? I'll add a little highlight on his hoof too, because why not, right? I think it adds a little something, something. And there are the little front legs. Now, if you don't want to remove that tuft of fur from the head of that cow before you add on his hair, you could easily add that little brown tuft of fur first before you add on the rest of the stuff, just so all you'll see is some dimensional hair sticking up. That would work as well. So I'm going to put together these are the little front hooves, like if this cow is going to hold something. So it's got like a little fur layer that you can add as well, so to sort of cover it up. So I add on the hooves first, and then I'll add the little furry layer. Kind of goes on perfectly. And then you'll have a super cute Highland cow that could hold something or be peeking above a line or something. Isn't that sweet? It is just the sweetest little guy. And then here are the little furry legs. So isn't that the sweetest? So cute. Okay. So this one, I'm going to make a couple of heads here that you can actually put a head on a card separate. You don't have to add the whole cow. So these are just the heads. So one's going to have the stamped face. So now we're going to add the little tuft of hair. So you can just use the head of these cows on a card if you'd like, right? So that's what I'm doing. Also just shows you like a variation on the different cow faces. And that's why I did it. So this one is the one that has the kind of the wide open yawning mouth or laughing or whatever. So I'm using that same American Crafts black cardstock, the paper Trey Ink Sweet Blush for the peach, and Pure Poppy cardstock for the red. And American Crafts, I can't remember if I used American Crafts brown cardstock too. I did. And there we go. And isn't that cute? And then we add on his little nose and mouth. And look, he kind of looks like he's laughing or yawning or something, right? Isn't that cute? I'm just going to add some pink cheeks with some EK Success chalk. And from using my Sakura White Jelly Roll pen in a number 10 to add some little freckles, because of course, and maybe a highlight on the tongue. And there we go. And now we can put together the rest of the head. So I'm going to add on the ears this time just because I'm using brown for the ears. That's American Crafts brown cardstock. So I'm just going to do that. Then I will add on, make sure it's lined up. And then I will add on that same sweet blush cardstock from Paper Trey Ink. Just nice light pink on the inside of the ears. There we go. And I'm just going to add on the head now. And using, a liberal amount of glue, right? Some Barely Art glue. And there we go. Isn't that sweet? And now I'm going to add on the horns, Paper Trey Ink white cardstock, and I'm just going to pop those on in place. Remember, you could have them behind the head as well. They would look fine, but whatever you want to do, but there's one. And now this is my pattern cow. I wanted to save paper, so what I did was I cut the top part of the cow just out of white Paper Trey Ink cardstock and the bottom part out of the cow pattern because that's what's going to show, and then I just kind of taped them together in the middle. And then I'm adding the main part of the body on. Next, I will add on the little hooves with American Crafts black cardstock. Now that cow pattern is from Doodlebug's Down on the Farm 6-inch pad. I didn't have a lot of that paper left, so that's why I was trying to be careful with it. And now I am going to assemble. You see there's a fun cow pattern on the back of it as well. So I'm just gluing my layers. So the back piece, the front face. Now I'm going to add some American Crafts black cardstock for that forehead stripe. There we go. And that Sweet Blush cardstock again from Paper Trey Ink and American Crafts black cardstock for the base part of the muzzle. And then I'm going to add the little chin in. That's going to be white Paper Trey Ink cardstock. There we go. And then I can add that onto the front of my face with that Barely Art glue again. These are really simple to do. There we are. And isn't that cute? Just making sure everything's lined up. Then I'm going to add my little pink ears or inner ears. That's that same Sweet Blush cardstock from Paper Trey Ink. I used that same pink for all of my cows today when I chose to use pink, right? And I'm going to add my little horns on. This is Paper Trey Ink white cardstock again, and they overlap that pattern. There we go. And I'm going to add the tuft of fur on. And isn't that cute? I just think it's adorable. There we are. And I'm going to add that little pink cheeks on as well, and some freckles. And I just think this cow's adorable with its little spotted body. Now I'm going to glue this head onto the cow. Actually, you don't really need to put glue, on the ears, but that was a boo-boo. But that's okay, right? We live, we learn. And I'm just going to make sure everything's lined up well. And I'm going to add my little pink tummy on that same Sweet Blush cardstock from Paper Trey Ink. There it is. And isn't that cute? It's just adorable. Now you could use the die cut eyes for this one, but I'm going to use these enamel dots from Doodlebug. I think they're called ICU. And I'm just going to add them on because it kind of gives a bold, shiny eye. And it kind of stands out amongst the pattern, if you know what I mean. And there we are. Isn't he cute? And now I am going to just put together the little legs and hooves and all that. So adding on my little hooves, American Crafts black cardstock, along with that cow pattern again for the legs. Super cute. And then I'm going to do the little ones, like if you want to, if you want the cow to be holding on to something, right? And the same thing. That American Crafts black cardstock on that same cow pattern. And I do weight it down, and isn't that cute? And now we can add on the two little legs. And I just think this is the sweetest little guy. Look how cute he is. Okay, I'm going to put together another head for you. This one is just, has the ears that hang down. And I'm using, what am I using here? Fine linen, Paper Trey Ink cardstock, and American Crafts cardstock. And I used black for the main base, although, actually I used brown for the main base. That way I can just put the pink on the inside of the ears just to make things easy. There we go. Then I'll add that little stripe on the forehead again with that same glue. There. And I'm going to add on my little horns, Paper Trey Ink white cardstock. I just think that this is adorable. Isn't it sweet? And then I'm going to add on that little tuft of fur or hair on the top of its head, because of course he's got like a cute little fluff of hair. And then I'm going to assemble my little muzzle there. That same Sweet Blush cardstock from Paper Trey Ink and American Crafts cardstock for the base. And isn't that cute? And I left off that piece. You don't have to, if you use the color that you want on your base, it's fine. You could leave that. Now I'm taking a little bit of chalk blending on the cheeks and now some little freckles on the cheeks of this super cute cow. And I just think it's super cute. Now I'm going to actually use, you could use these are the die cut eyes. You could use just black. You could use the white, the big ones with the little white eyes if you want. There we go. Or there's one other type of eye that you could use, and I'm going to use that one. There it is. These guys, see, they kind of go there. This is the one I'm going to use. And isn't that cute? So I'm just going to stick these, glue these down. You know, it'd be best if you use some tweezers or something to pick things up so you can get them exactly where you want them. American Crafts black cardstock and Paper Trey Ink white cardstock. And there we go. It's just super cute stuff. And I will add on, oops, just trying to get that in the right place. And I'm going to glue those little eyes on, and isn't that the cutest thing? Oops, I gotta glue them on now. Sorry, guys. So we're just gonna get them in place. And I think these little die cut eyes are super cute as well. So you could use the little cow faces stamp, or you could just use the little die cut eyes. I think those are cute. There we go. And this is what they all look like on an A2 size card. There we are. And there's the other one, the other two. And the two different versions. We've got legs, we've got little front hooves to hold things, whatever you'd like. And that is what it looks like. So now if you wanted to stamp the muzzle, you just cut the muzzles that are plain. And I'm using a Misty. And then I will stamp those little images onto those muzzles with Versafine Clair Nocturne ink. Okay, so I used a Post-it just to hold all those little muzzles. And Misty is kind of your friend for this because you kind of have to line up where you're going to stamp these little nostrils and everything. So I'm going to line up 3 of them, like I said, using my Misty, and I'll use Versafine Clair Nocturne ink. And then you can stamp and however you'd like. I did use that same Sweet Blush cardstock from Paper Trey Ink for the little muzzles, just to keep things kind of, like I have them already. And then I'll show you what they look like. So this is just the easiest way for, I could probably freehand stamp this, but I tend to use my Misty because I'm not the greatest stamper. I tend to use a little bit too much pressure sometimes, and I find that the Misty is a little bit more forgiving. It allows you, when you're having trouble, it allows you to line things up and restamp and do all the things. And of course, I'm having trouble just getting these things to not stop sticking to me so I can line them up. And, but this is usually what I do when I'm trying to line something up on my Misty. Okay, so now I'm going to use Versafine Clair Nocturne ink to stamp these little things. And then remember, you can use these on your little cows as well instead of the die cut ones. Although I have to say, I'm kind of partial to the eyes. I really like the eyes, but I like to use the die cuts for the actual muzzle part. Do you know what I mean? Those are my favorite. So this is what it would look like. Kind of cute, right? Isn't that cute? Or this is a different one. And here's another one. There's a bunch of different ones you could choose. So thank you so much for stopping by. Be sure to hop on over to the Jaded Blossom blog, be inspired by the team, the Jaded Blossom store, to get your hands on these amazing cow dies and face stamps. Thanks for watching. Bye, everybody.